Welcome to the Which Was Better podcast, where we discuss and decide which was better, the book or the movie. This week, up for debate is The Secret Ingredient. I'm your host, Lisa, and I'm joined by my very good friend, Emma, who is the author of the hilarious Hallmark blog, The Hallremark. Emma, it's happening. You're here, and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for asking me to do this. This is so fun. It's our DMs come to life.
It really is. That's what I feel like. I was like, okay. And I started to think, have we ever been we've been on the same podcast, but I don't think we've ever been on one together. Have we?
We, what was it? It was on the Hallmarkies, and it was oh gosh, I can't think of what it's called. It's where they built something on top of another building. Which one is that?
Built something. Oh, yes. Okay, but it was like a group of us because I was like, yes. I've been wanting to do a podcast with you forever, and it's finally happening, and I can't believe it, and I've been so excited. So this is it. I mean, I'm like, this is the day. It's finally here.
I'm excited too.
I've lured you with enough demands on DMs, and finally you gave in, and you're like, okay, stop asking.
Yeah, there was no way I could say no. I was actually kind of afraid.
Okay, so we are going to talk about The Secret Ingredient. So the book came out in February of 2019, and the movie premiered a year later. But I have to ask, did you read the book when it first came out, or did you watch the movie first, or which one happened for you?
I didn't read or watch when they first came out. I watched The Secret Ingredient a couple months into quarantine. And I hadn't watched a lot of Hallmark for a while. And I was pretty pleasantly surprised. It was a really good welcome back.
Oh, okay. So you did like the movie overall?
Yes. The first time I watched it.
Yes. So okay. That might be a preview of what's to come, and I'm very excited about that. Okay.
Okay.
So the movie was first, and then the book. Okay. So in going back to reading the book after you'd already seen the movie, was there enough of a break between the two where it felt new, or were you just like, okay, you kind of went into it with this already, like, I've seen the movie, I'm just going to skim through it. Like, what was your thoughts there?
Well, I decided to read the book before I rewatched the movie, but there was probably 8 months in between my first watch and then the reading, but I kept seeing Brendan Penny's face while I was reading. Right. So I couldn't shake that.
Yeah, I kept seeing the both of them, which was fine because we'll get to that part in just a second. Okay. But I love them both. So that was fine, but it was a little distracting because I like having my own ideas of what everybody looks like in my
agree.
Head. And I didn't read the book when it first came out, but I had read it when I saw that it was going to be a part of the Ever After lineup. I was like, oh, I'm going to try and read it because I had a copy of it. And I did end up reading it before I watched the movie. And it was different than I expected. So, but I ended up doing it again. I read it again, last week, and then I watched it again. And so I had a whole new fresh perspective of everything. So yes, I'm very excited. So the thing that, since we've both seen them, obviously both in read it and everything, did the book and the TV characters line up with how you thought they would? Like for me, because reading it first and then seeing them, it was slightly different, but I'm interested to see what you thought.
I thought that Kelly was a lot different in the movie than she was in the book. Gotcha. I thought they niced her up a lot. Like I thought she was nice in the book, but she had a lot of animosity inside her towards Andrew. And I didn't really see that a lot in the movie. And I found that shocking.
Yes, because Erin Cahill is so sweet.
Yes, maybe that's it. She's just so nice.
She's so charming and just so bubbly. And I was just like, okay, but I think she played the character very well. But yes, I agree. It was different. It was a lot different than what I anticipated. So, okay. So before we really start diving in, I'm going to back up and do a quick summary of both the book and the movie because they are different. And let me start with the book. So The Secret Ingredient was a Hallmark original publishing story, and it's by Nancy Nagel, who is no stranger to the Hallmark world because she also had Christmas Joy and Hope at Christmas. And I think she even did the novelizations of the evergreen Christmas movies. Like this ain't her first rodeo. She knows what's going on. But it's the first Hallmark book that got optioned for a movie. The first publishing, like from their publishing arm, that got optioned for a movie. So that was kind of exciting. So, okay, book summary is years ago, Kelly McIntyre and Andrew York were engaged in dreaming of opening a restaurant together. Then he chose an opportunity to study in Paris over the small town life they had planned, and their romance came to a bittersweet end. But Kelly's doing fine. She's not only the owner of a potbelly pig named Gray, but also of her own bakery. Business is good, so good that she's invited to compete in a Valentine's Day bake-off. As she prepares for the contest, she tries not to get distracted by Andrew's visit to town. When Andrew sees Kelly, it stirs up old feelings. Little does he know that soon in New York, he'll compete against her in the bake-off, and they'll both realize how much of their past is part of them still. Dun, dun, dun. And then the movie, because Hallmark likes to keep it short and sweet, but
so short.
The movie premiered as part of Hallmark's Love After Valentine's movie, and it starred, as we said before, Aaron Cahill, Brennan Penny, and real life chef Manit Chauhan, which is different than the book, because in the book it's a gentleman named Martin something, and she comes in, which I thought was a fun switch. But the movie description is: small town baker Kelly gets a surprise when she's invited to compete on a Valentine's Day baking show in New York City, and an even bigger surprise when she runs into her ex-fiance. And hilarity ensues. No.
I was like, did it say that? No. I wasn't laughing my butt off.
Yeah, no. But yeah, very, very different. And so I'm going to get into the first difference that I thought, the first two differences for me that I thought were the biggest. And one was the point of view of the book and the movie, because in the book, we get alternating points of view from both Andrew and Kelly and their, individual struggles with leaving and choosing their paths in life and seeing one another again. And we get all their internal monologues. But then the movie is centered around Kelly's perspective. We get little snippets of Andrew and like his life back in Paris, but it's mostly centered around Kelly and her life as we know it now. So we miss out on a lot of Andrew's reactions to seeing Kelly once he comes back to town, and all of his thoughts and his decisions that follow. So what did you think about that? Do you think it works better knowing or not knowing Andrew's motivations like we do in the book?
So I'm usually into one POV with romances.
Agreed.
But I enjoyed this because it made his time away make more sense to me. I don't know. I liked getting just more of him because it made the relationship seem deeper. It didn't feel as rich in the movie. I don't know. I liked it in this instance. What about you?
Yeah, I agree. I'm a single POV romance reader just because I like the idea of a mysterious, love interest where you don't know whether the other party reciprocates, their feelings. Mm-hmm. And, once at the end, when you get a reveal and you start to look back on all their actions, you're like, oh, probably, and you kind of put pieces together and you kind of figure out what they were thinking. And I don't know. I do like that. And I felt like in the movie, Andrew almost seemed kind of annoyed with Kelly's version of the past. He's like a little bit more confrontational. I thought their relationship was a lot, like you said, a lot more rushed. We don't get a lot of Andrew's past. And I will say that I did miss that part because we don't get Andrew's struggles in coming home, because we miss out on a whole side story with his dad and his family. So yeah, I think I liked the book multiple POVs better, which is weird. I'm not normally a multi POV kind of person.
Yeah, it just really seemed to work for this. I can't really put my finger on why, but I appreciate it.
Yeah, because the next biggest difference is the timelines. Because in the book, the book opens with Andrew and Kelly are as teenagers, and so we see the evolution of their relationship from when they were together in love, and then him leaving, and then all that pain for Kelly, and then coming back, and then all of their interactions once he's back before they both end up in New York. But in the movie, he comes back, but they're not in Bailey's Fork very long. From there, they go pretty much straight to New York, and most of the movie is centered around the contest. And what did you think of that? Did you like that better, or it's more of the same kind of question, I guess, because we're talking about missing out on a lot of their previous interactions. But did you like it centered around the contest more? Or?
Well, I am obsessed with the Food Network baking competitions. Like, you don't understand how much I love them and how much I watch them. I make my kid watch them with me.
Oh, goodness.
And she's really into baking. She's 4 and we bake all the time. So, and it was really cool to see Manit Chauhan because I like her a lot. So it was just.
So you already knew who she was.
Okay. I knew who she was.
See, I didn't know.
Yeah. And my best friend's a pastry chef. So it's just, that's a really good thing to have, by the way.
Yeah.
But so it was really fun to be inside of that world and see what a contestant goes through. And I liked it a lot in the book because you get to see what they're thinking and they're planning to go into it. Because even though I'm not like amazing at baking, I still picture like what I'd be like on one of those shows.
Yeah.
So it was fun to pretend like I was on one. So I did like getting more of that world in the movie, but I really think it took away from their relationship. And I think it was good to see them in Bailey's Fork and actually fighting and arguing in Bailey's Fork before like being good with each other. And we're like in the movie, when they're in New York, they're really civil except for like 2 jabs at each other.
Yeah.
And like
they hashed out a lot at Bailey's Fork before they even get to New York, and we miss out on a lot of that. So yeah. And I thought, because it seems like the contest part is really only like the last third of the book. They don't really even get to New York until like, gosh, halfway through the book. And then, there's all this prep work, and then they actually get to the contest, which I'm going to say that for reading about a reality show baking contest, it was actually pretty tense in the book. I was like tense the whole time during the scenes because I was like, time is running out and she's got to do this. And she said, it was tense. But I appreciated that they didn't make every stage of the contest in the book like a very long, drawn out, because the first one, they gave us a very, very good glimpse into everything. And then they kind of, the author kind of fast forwarded through the next few, but it gave us enough to know that these were tense situations. And I don't know, I maybe if I was more of a reality show, like I watched The Great British Bake Off. That's it.
Oh, but that show is so good. So that's a good one if that's the one you're watching.
Like, that's the only one I watched. But it just felt like in the book, the primary story was always Andrew and Kelly, and the contest was like a secondary story that just kind of brought them out of Bailey's Fork into a new arena. But in the movie, it's flipped. It felt like the contest was the big story, and then they just so happened to be there and fall in love again.
I agree.
Yeah. We missed out on a lot.
I agree.
We missed out on, and the fact that they didn't give us the pig.
Oh my gosh. I was thinking like, was there a pig when I watched this movie? And then of course, being the strange person I am, I'm like, there is a pig they could have hired that I think about often.
I thought of this already as I was reading. I made a note and I was like, is there a pig? And then I immediately thought of your Christmas Yule log pig love.
My side-eye pig. I love him or her. I love that pig.
Like it was right there.
I know.
You had a pig. Well, I
I
did.
mean,
Yeah.
it makes me
Sorry.
mad. It makes me so mad. I don't like. I was very upset about that change because it didn't make any sense.
They could have had a pig. They had goats in All for Love or
Yes, they did.
All of My Heart. Sorry. I'm going to
Yes,
totally offend all the Brennan Elliott fans out there.
Grannies.
They're like, it's All of My Heart.
Come on, in love, INN.
I'm like, they had goats there, and they had, what was it, llamas and the Vineyard movies? I don't know. They had something.
I didn't watch those, so I apologize.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
Anyway,
okay.
but I did like the scene in the movie when Andrew comes home good to drop Kelly off, and she's like, "Oh, you haven't met George," and he was like, "Oh God, do I have to?" And he's like really upset, and then he's like, "Oh, it's a dog. Hi." I thought that was
that was a good get. I'm glad she took that opportunity. He probably deserved it a little.
Yes, he did, because he's like, maybe we could do this another time. He's all looking around for an escape, and then he's like, "Oh, it's a dog." But yeah, so we miss out on like several baking scenes from the book, like together, close quarters, baking together solo in the middle of the night, and horse rides and picnics. And I do think it took away from the seriousness of their relationship and how together they were for a long. Yeah, but
I agree, and I liked the setting of Bailey's Fork. I would have liked to spend more time, see more time of it, because I thought it was very charming in the book. I actually started reading it in kind of a Southern accent at first. I was like, that's just where my head went. But I think that's what the author probably wanted. But I don't know, it was charming, and I liked how the families were more involved. In the movie, the mom seemed just annoying, but I'll come with you. It's like, what?
Yeah. She's like, girls trip. And I'm like, yeah. Yeah, it was awkward. So speaking of the parents, it's a good segue, is in the movie, we find out pretty early on that Kelly's parents, who own a cafe, and that's where Kelly and Andrew first, really started falling in love by working in the cafe together, cooking and whatnot, that they're selling the cafe. They want to retire. And this obviously leaves an opening for Andrew later in the story to buy it and move back home. But in the book, it's kind of an afterthought. Kelly's in New York and she's getting settled for the contest. And I think it's when she's there, she talks to her assistant, Sarah, her BFF, or somebody at home. Maybe it's her mom. It's her mom. It's like,
her mom calls.
Yeah, her mom calls and she's like, I have to answer this, otherwise my mom will worry. And she says, just so you know, your dad's thinking about maybe selling. And it's really not brought up again. And it's not not a story at all. It's just kind of like a side comment. But because we miss out on all of this stuff in the, from the book and the movie about Bailey's Fork and the cafe and how much they're there and how much it means to them, like without all those previous scenes from the book, like, does it still mean the same? Like, I don't know.
No. She just seemed kind of sad in the movie, but in the book, she seemed very upset about it. And it made sense to me why she was upset about it, because she fell in love there. She fell in love with baking. Andrew fell in love with cooking there. It just made it. And in the movie, it was just like, oh, that's sad.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I can't take over because I'm busy. I'm super busy. And that's sad. I wish I could, but I can't. And, and it's just, and so when Andrew takes over in the movie, when Andrew buys the cafe at the end, spoiler alert, but, hey, we're talking about the books in the movie. So obviously spoiler alert, but, it's a nice, tidy ending because that's what brings him home. But in the book, he has an offer of land from his dad as like a peace offering. His dad takes him out to this great field and is like, hey, I bought this land years ago and it's yours if you want it to build a restaurant on it. And he's like, oh my God, what? And so that's kind of like his, avenue home so he can fulfill his dream. And the cafe, they end up taking it over anyways in the book, which is random because they don't talk about it. I don't know. It's just the whole thing is very bizarre. And I can't figure out which one I like better, honestly.
Well, I just remember thinking, okay, so between the three of them, they're in charge of 3 food establishments.
Yes.
They are never going to see each other.
I know. They make it sound like it's so cozy. Like, oh, we're together and we run a cafe, a pretty much high-end farm to table restaurant out like 15 miles from town, and like a well-known, like nationally known bakery. But okay.
Yeah,
Sure.
I see what I liked about in the book is because it was really sweet that his father did this peace offering thing. And I was like, I really like this. This is very sweet. And like he gets to open from the ground up his own restaurant. But in the book, he just takes over the other one. So he's not really opening his own restaurant. I just didn't feel like that to me.
What did you think about in the book when they come back home and it's the year later and they renamed the cafe Main Street Cafe? They renamed it the New York.
I feel two different ways about it. Okay, one thing is, okay, I see what you did. I'm going to give you credit. And the other is me just laughing because it's really funny to me. I don't know.
I just was like, why did you have to rename it? Why couldn't you just leave it the Main Street Cafe? Everybody knows it's the Main Street Cafe.
That's so true.
Like, but okay.
Sorry. It's just, I looked at it for a minute and I was like, what is this? Just because they were in New York for a while. And then I was like, oh, that's his last name. That's a pun. Oh,
yeah. It took me a second too. When it finally hit on me, I was like, okay,
I was like,
super dad joke, but I'm into it. I liked it. I thought it was cute.
See, I just feel really pulled in both ways to make fun of it and then to appreciate it. And that's basically what my life is. Everything's that struggle.
Yes, I agree. So, okay. I was just like, I don't know. I was like, I feel very different about the two approaches to why he comes home, but I think they both work, but I don't know. I liked the storyline in the book more with his dad and making up with his dad, because in the book, his dad basically doesn't approve of him being a chef and is like mad that he doesn't follow in his footsteps, and they don't talk for like several years while he's gone, and it's all this strained really, and then he comes home and they make up, and I loved it. So good. Okay, before because I could talk about I could talk about Andrew and his dad forever. Okay. So I thought it's interesting because you made a comment earlier, which I think we're going to end up on opposite ends on this one. So
okay,
I'm very excited about this. Okay. So I'm going to lay this out for me, and then I want you to tell me how you thought it was different, because for me, there were book regrets and there were movie regrets, and they were similar, but I thought that they were handled very differently. So for me in the movie, there were two scenes that really stood out to me. And the first was their lunch. When they're in New York, Andrew and Kelly run into each other on the street. And he says, hey, we're going to lunch. And they go to this fancy place that he can get into because he's this famous French chef, whatever. So they go to lunch, and the lunch felt very tense to me because there was a moment when they're talking about him going off, and he was like, well, basically under his breath, he's like, basically you had a chance to go and you didn't, which unless you'd read the book, you don't know that at this point. You're just like, oh, that was kind of a dig, and it's kind of a strained lunch. And then he gets a call and he has to leave, and then they leave. And I thought it was kind of tense. And then the other part was in the movie, after the final, part of the contest, they're in the finals together, Andrew versus, Kelly, and they both make the same cake. And after they find out they both made the same cake, they go to the green room and they turn on each other and they legit start fighting. They're like super arguing with them and like arguing with each other over whose cake it was. And then it turns into, you are just mad that I left and went to culinary school. And then it gets ugly. And I'm like, whoa, this is, I liked it. But to me, I don't think we got that level of angst in the book, because in the book, they do go to the same restaurant, but it's at dinner, and they're chaperoned with the two producers of the show to make sure that they don't talk about being on the show, and they have to be under watch at all times. And it seems like a very, fun dinner because he's trying to impress her. And then in the book, also after the contest, when they find out they're making the same cake, they're in the green room and they have this moment of, that's my cake. And then they kind of dissolve into this love fest of, but I had to make it because of you. And she's like, what were you missing? And he was like, love. And I love you. And she's like, oh my God, don't say that. We're still, it was all this love fest, like I said. So I thought that their book conversations were a lot more grown up, a lot more rational, a lot more just hashing out stuff like in a civilized adult manner, where I thought the movie was a lot more tense and confrontational. So what do you think?
So the reason I think that the book is a little bit more tense is the amount of times that Kelly just gets mad at him. Like, it's maybe not like the yelling mad, but it's just like, I'm going to remind you how you broke my heart. I'm going to remind you how you left. And it's just like they couldn't have a conversation without her bringing stuff back up, at least when they were in Bailey's Fork. Like, I felt like she needed to calm down a bit.
She was bitter Betty. You're right.
Yes, she was.
Like that. Okay.
And that's why I was like, okay. Well, the thing about the movie that I liked better is that their relationship conversations made more sense to me. Like, it took them a while to talk about it. But in the book, they immediately started talking about it. Like, hi, it's nice to see you, but you left me and I've been hurt for a long time. And it's like, oh my gosh, chill out. We're at a party right now. And this is really awkward for me. Like, I'm freaked out. But that's,
she did.
Awesome. But that's why I thought the book was more tense, because I felt like it went on for a longer period of time. Maybe because it takes longer to read a book. But I just felt like she kept bringing it up.
Yeah, even if she wasn't saying it verbally, she was like, I'm
thinking it
to show him that I'm super over him and that he made him.
Yeah, and I did this without him, and that I don't have the degree, but I could, all this stuff. Yeah. Everything was like to prove that she didn't need him, type of thing. I don't know, but that's why I got it.
Yeah, you make a very good point. I just saw that how angry they got in that confrontation in the green room after they made the same cake, but I loved it. I'm like, because to me that's a natural evolution where you're trying to play nice, you're in this delicate trying to get to know each other again, and you don't want to scare the other person off, but you have all these feelings pent up and you're not really like talking about the actual elephant in the room, and finally it just blows up. And I loved it in the movie. I really liked that part, because I'm like, that's what I would do. I hate confrontation, but the moment you actually press too hard, then I'm like, rah.
Yeah, then it's over for everybody. And then I'm crying, and then someone slams the door. Like, it's just, because if I put up with something too long, so I understand that. When I was watching the movie, I said to my husband, I said, in the book, they were making out almost like in this moment. Like, they were about to. This is so weird.
Yes. And I'm like, y'all haven't even really talked about really like how painful it was for you guys. Y'all haven't really, they've skirted around it, and they've had these really rational adult conversations, but I don't know. I was waiting for the hash out in the book, and it didn't really happen, but the movie gave it to us. They gave us the yelling. I was there for it. I was like, yes.
After the tense conversation at 25:20, she just called and said, oh, that was so wonderful. Thank you so much. And I'm sorry I said that. I'm like, what? It was such a quick turnaround.
Well, and he seemed, that's part of that's part of where I thought he seemed annoyed with her. Because when she calls and and says, I'm sorry, I don't know, he just kind of was like, like he was still bitter about it. I don't know, but it was fine. But it kind of goes into the fact that towards the end of the movie, it's very, very different from the book. Like, not just that scene where they make the same cakes, but the entire ending, because in the book, it's a live audience for the ending, and they don't know it's the other person until they come out on live TV, and then they say, we've never had this before, we have a tie, and we're going to have to do something different, and they send them back to the green room, and that's when they start talking. But then they bring them back out, and they find out who nominates them, and Andrew's sister Dawn is the one that nominated both of them, and she's in the audience, but then she gets up and leaves. She's like, I gotta fly back real quick. And I'm like, what? And then they have the audience have these like clickers to decide whose cake was better, and then it's announced, and then they rush off to this. We find out that this whole thing was like themed, like there was a single person, and then there was a married. I didn't really follow the whole thing, but it was like this Valentine's couples theme, and they were like former sweethearts, and it was part of it. And then they whisk them off to this like rooftop dinner, and they have this whole thing planned out for them. I thought
it was a lot. There was so much that was revealed in that moment. There was a lot of layers going on there. I was
bizarre. Like what did and in the movie we don't get and also in the book there's a part when they come back on stage to reveal the winner, and they reveal who Dawn, who nominated them, Andrew's sister Dawn, and all this, and then they say, we recorded you backstage in the green room, and they show them having their big love fest. And I'm like, what?
I think you probably know how I feel about that.
I was so upset about that.
I started cracking up so loud when I found out that they had been recorded, because of course I had the huge rant about how Good Morning Christmas ended.
Yes.
I guess
secretly recording love confessions, y'all.
And then putting it on live freaking TV. Like, so much could go wrong. Like, from a live TV perspective. Like, so much. That shit. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if this were a different publisher and a different network, it could have gotten real different real fast in that green room by themselves confessing.
Exactly.
Love. And I'm like, let's tap the brakes on recording people without their consent.
The only thing that is different with this one is that they knew they were on a reality TV show. In Good Morning Christmas, it's like, we have you mic'd, but you don't know that we could film you before. Yeah. That's the only thing that I see in the difference, but I still don't like I don't like it.
So I'm glad they took that part out of the movie, because in the movie, to me, I'm going to go ahead and say that I didn't remember all of that part from the book until I reread this time. And then when I watched the movie, after I watched the movie, I thought the book ending was very strange, because everything in the contest in the book felt manufactured. And if I were Kelly, I'd be like, wait a minute. If they're doing this all for some grand Valentine's theme based around couples, were we the end game the whole time? Am I really a good baker? Am I really like beating these people? Or did they just eliminate so Andrew and I would pit together and they could have this moment on TV? It didn't fall, like it didn't land the same way. And I thought that the movie contest ending I thought it was a lot tighter and a lot cleaner, and I actually liked it better.
Okay, I totally get what you're saying. Like, because I would not put it past a reality TV thing to not manufacture that. Yes. Because, I mean, none of it's that real. No. And like, so this is sad, but I watch American Idol.
Yes. Go on.
But when they revived it on ABC, I think, the first season, the final two were secretly dating, and it revealed on the final show that they were dating, and everyone was like, oh, they just want that moment on TV. So like, I would feel bad for those two that was even, thought of. So yeah, I was thinking, there are people tweeting like, oh, this is set up about how they're watching Foursquare, because I would have been thinking it.
Yes. I just once I reread and rewatched after I watched the movie again, I was like, I like that. It just brought up so many questions about the book. I mean, the book, let me just go ahead and say, I'm not dragging the book. I thought the whole thing was very sweet, but when I saw the movie like interpretation of it, I did like that one better. So
okay,
let me just put it that way. So,
okay,
but the part of the ending in the book where after the contest is over, Andrew and Kelly go back to their hotel, and she says, hey, let me take you somewhere. Because before, when she reaches New York, she meets this woman on the plane, and the woman on the plane and her start talking, and she ends up inviting her to her husband's restaurant because he has the best cheesecake in New York. And she says, I have a feeling that you're going to find love in you. It was very bizarre, but it was cute. Like a little magical Santa type thing, in this Valentine's book. And then, so after the contest is over and they're back at the hotel, she's like, let's go with me. And they go there and everybody knows who they are. And, and they're all cheering and they have this cheesecake night and they take pictures and all this. But in the movie, this part of the story stays there, except it's a setup between the two producers to set them up to go on this like quasi date.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how we learn more about their past, because when they're sitting there talking, we learn about, past, and they start talking about stuff. So which one did you think worked better? It was very jarring to me in the book to have them go to this restaurant. And then it just didn't seem like it added a whole lot, but I don't know. I wanted to get your thoughts on it.
So I really like when old people are in Hallmark movies. They have like the best actors for old people for some reason. And of course, I didn't look up their names, but I have a few in mind that I just love. So I was thinking, oh, that's going to be fun, because I forgot all about the cheesecake part in the movie. And I was like, oh, I can't wait to see which old person they get for this part. Because, I mean, I don't know. I've always been the type of person, even when I was a little kid, to make friends with really old people. I just do not know what that's about. But I've always just sat and talked with old people. So I wanted that really bad. And I enjoyed the Polaroid part. I thought that was cute, and being on their wall. But yeah. I can see where it's like unnecessary. But I enjoyed it.
Yeah. I guess I thought in reading, because I was like, okay, obviously this character is going to come back into play for some reason. And I thought it was going to have a bigger deal in the story than it did. I mean, it was cute and it was sweet. And I really liked the owner coming. Like, I liked that whole interaction. It was really fun. But I was just like, I was waiting for this like tie-in, like it was going to be some big I don't know. It just didn't. And then I think it made more sense the way they did it in the movie in comparison to everything else that happened in the movie. But I don't know. I can
understand that. I think it makes sense. I do like that they were working together, but it also makes it seem like it was all rigged.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes.
More of the, let's see what we can do here. Because I mean, I'm sorry, if I'm a reality show producer and I get a letter like that and I'm like, two contestants who were used to be in love. I mean, of course, all I see is ratings, but then at the same time, I'm like, do we really get them both? I mean, I don't know, because the whole thing from the moment, I'd be like, yeah, get them both, and then they're in the final, and then that would make ratings amazing, and then we'll have follow-up stories, and we'll have ads for days, and yeah. But it's not genuine, like in getting individual contestants. I'm reading too much into it. It's a fake reality contest. I should just stop, because I'm like,
you're like, the ethics of it.
Yes, it's not fair. Regardless of whether it's in the book or the movie, it's not fair. But I need to stop. Okay. So in both the book and the movie, we do get the epilogue. Are you a fan of the epilogue, by the way? Some people aren't. Some people just want it to end and then they don't want to know. They want to make their own future guesses. But
I take epilogues. I'm fine with them.
Yeah.
I honestly don't have a huge opinion about it. I have opinion on everything, but it's not about epilogues.
Well, my kids love them. Whenever we watch movies and there's an epilogue, they're very, 1 year later, they get very excited.
That's so cute.
I think it started with Harry Potter, because, at the end when we get, 17 years later and we see the Harry Potter kids, the Hogwarts kids grown up, and they made us watch that last few minutes 17 years later. Oh my gosh, like dozens of times. They just loved it. They loved seeing them as parents. They just thought it was the funniest thing. And so now epilogue, we could see, and I'm like, okay, they get very, very excited.
I love that.
So it was mainly the same, except for the way Andrew proposed, which in the book, it's very romantic. He takes her to the back of the restaurant and it's got all these like twinkle lights, because you can't have a proposal without twinkle lights. And it's got all these twinkle lights and like they have dinner. And then he like proposes with a replica of the cake that she made for the finale with an engagement box like she did, but a real one with a Tiffany ring, and it was very romantic. And then in the movie, my man just hands her a box. He's holding out cupcakes on his thing, and he just hands it to her, and she's like, "What?"
That's so true. I didn't think about how grand one was and how like an afterthought.
I mean, he just gets down on the knee. He don't even know anybody in the restaurant. They're just customers, and they're like, "Man, I just came in for a cheeseburger." And do I have to clap? Okay, yay!
Yay. Great. That's so funny.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and say that yes, I liked the book version better.
But I will say, okay, I bake macarons a lot, and I'm obsessed with them. The fact that she kept a macaron in her purse just blows my mind, because one, they are crumbly and super delicate. Like if you crack that top of the shell, it's everywhere. Number two, it's filled with something that needs to be refrigerated. Exactly. So she had that in her purse. I was so mad.
Like, listen, I went to Paris and I actually bought some I bought some last minute macarons on the way out, like at the airport, just so I could have them on the plane ride. And I bought 6. Me and my sister picked each 3 flavors, and they were boxed so well. Like I was packaging crystal, because you can't. And even then I carried them. And even then it was only when we had to like put stuff away that I just gently laid them on. You know what I mean? Like it was a very concerted effort, and it's one of them was still broken when I opened it. So you're right. The fact that she just had it, I'll just throw that in my purse real quick.
When you're like carrying them around, it's kind of like more delicate than carrying eggs. The way they kind of like wobble in their tiny little plastic thing. Oh, I want a macaron so bad. But I was really ticked.
Okay. That's fine.
Yeah.
I love that you're like, on all the baking stuff, you're like, really? And then I'm like, at the reality stuff, I'm like, oh, there's so much to be mad at both of these.
You have no idea how much I think about baking. Like, I follow about 25,000 Instagram accounts that's just people icing cookies. Like, I just love watching that stuff, and I love to do it.
Yes, when they pipe the icing and then it floods, and
it is so soothing.
Yeah, I went down that rabbit hole in Christmas when I was looking at Christmas cookies and people making like frosted. Yeah, I'm with you. I had a lot. It changed my YouTube algorithm for like weeks, because all it kept me was like icing cookies and stuff like that. Yeah, so I get you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that the last question. Oh, no. I actually have 3 more questions for you.
Okay.
And then they get progressively harder.
Oh.
So brace yourself.
I'm holding on.
The next one is, I want to ask you about overall chemistry between Andrew and Kelly. Do you think it was stronger in the book, or do you think it was stronger in the movie? It's hard to do that, because in the movie you actually get to see their facial expressions and get to see Brendan Penny being
Brendan Penny. Hold on, I need to bring up the turtleneck that was really funny to me. Did you like the turtleneck, or did you laugh?
Oh no, that was terrible. It was a terrible choice. I'm like, you have cowl necks right there. You have cowl necks and V-necks. You have all kinds of necks, and yet you go for the turtle.
See, I personally like wearing turtlenecks, but I don't need to see turtlenecks like on guys. So anyway, I laughed about that choice. But okay, so I'm basing this on the one time I had a little heart jump. Do you know what I'm talking about? It's just a little like,
yes. Yeah.
And it's only happened once, and it only happened in the book.
I wonder if it's going to be my moment for later. I'm very excited. Tell me.
It was when they were baking the groom's cake together.
Okay, it wasn't. Yay. Okay, so tell me. Yes, tell me.
I mean, baking is lovely.
Yeah.
In that kitchen, was way better in the book, by the way.
Yes.
But it was just, I think it's maybe when they like brush shoulders. Sorry. It was just, I don't remember exactly the moment, but I remember getting like this is pretty romantic feel.
It was, because they're alone together. It's the middle of the night,
Mm-hmm.
and they're alone together, and he's almost like a little too cocky about like, oh, I'm just going to jump in and help you start baking. And I'm, he's wearing the apron, and she's like directing him around. Yeah, I get you. It was a good scene. Yeah.
And I just base it off of having that feeling then. So
you didn't get any heart jumps from the movie?
No, I'll explain later.
Oh, okay. That's exciting. Okay, so I went with you. I thought book chemistry for sure, because there were a lot more alone moments, conversations, the baking scenes, being near one another, all these like close like moments of almost hand touching. And there was, I know what it was. There was a scene when he's there for the groom's cake, and they're making it in the book, and she says something to him, and he replies, "Make no mistake, everything I do is intentional." And I was like, "Oh, hello." I'm sorry, what?
That is a very strong one. Yeah. Yes.
I was like, oh, that's hot. Okay. I'm in. So yeah, book chemistry. I thought book chemistry was better. So
okay, very good.
Okay. So we agreed. Okay. So now here's your big chance. What was one thing from the book that you missed in the movie version, and or what was something from the movie that you wished was in the book?
I feel like I've already talked about this at length, and it's the pig. I mean, they had a chance to have a pet pig in a Hallmark movie, which is so fun. There's always a dog.
The name. They could have explained the name. The name was a huge part of it.
Yes, I thought the Good Riddance Andrew York was clever. I was all for it, and I thought it was fun. Except it is kind of weird to be like reminded of your ex every day with a pig face. I don't know. But I was disappointed that they didn't utilize the pig, and also something I really liked about the book was how grand and her bakery and factory were. And I felt like her bakery in the movie just seemed like any bakery.
Yeah.
But in the book, it seemed like she was like big time. And I didn't get that as much in the book.
Yeah. It was like a whole massive factory on it. I mean, I know that's hard to location scout, but yeah, agreed. It just looked like your average corner bakery.
Yeah.
Which is not bad. She owned it, so that's great. But I agree with you. But can I ask you a question about the pig really quickly before I tell you my answer?
I would never have a pig, but is that what you're going to ask me?
No. My question was, in the book, the pig's name is Gray, but then when they get back together, she says, we have to change the name to Way. What did you think about that?
Well, I thought it was weird.
They really did. They really called it Way from then on.
But I didn't even think about like, how much does that pig weigh? I'm going to have a pound of, that pig. And I didn't think about it from an eating standpoint.
Yes.
Which is really messed up.
I know. I was like, oh, okay. Sure. You could just say it was Gray. You don't have to talk about the acronym all the time, but okay.
You can spell the Gray with an E.
Yes.
You can take the A out and then everything's fixed.
Which I'm going to go ahead and say that I know that's the English spelling, but I refuse to spell it Gray. Just it's a personal preference. I don't know why. I just refuse. I prefer Gray, like Greystoke, Legend of Tarzan. Yes, Gray. Grey. Okay, I'm sorry.
Every time I want to spell Gray, I'm like, which one's right?
I know. I would do the E. I just think it looks better. I think it looks more civilized. Okay. So my moment that I missed was, so there's a moment in the book. It's from the book. I wish it were in the movie.
Okay.
When Andrew's in New York City and in the book, as part of the contest, they have to give up their cell phones and they
Mhm.
have to, there's no TVs in the room and they have to be chaperoned everywhere because it's part of their non-disclosure that nobody can know they're in the contest until the live reveal. Okay. So there's a moment when he has to give up his phone to his handler and he gets to submit a list of people that he might hear from. And he puts Kelly on the list, but he has her named in the phone as More Cookies, which that's not the part I missed. Okay.
Okay. I thought that was the part. Okay.
No, but he says to his handler, he says, it's a long story, but if she calls, I definitely want to know. And then he says, and for the record, I want to take that call, even if it means I have to give up my shot at winning the show to do it. And I loved that part in the book. It made me like very swoony because I thought it was very romantic of him to be like, listen, I choose her over the contest if it comes down to it. And I really wanted to see Brendan Penny say those words. And we didn't get it. I also wanted to see him ride a horse and wear a cowboy hat like in the book, but we didn't get that.
And was it ostrich skin boots?
Oh,
Is
yeah.
that what it was?
Was like, oh, yikes. Okay. So, yeah. I mean, I am from Texas where we wear a lot of boots. And even though I'm a city girl, I still had my fair share of boots. And I never had ostrich boots. Never.
Are they bad or expensive or both?
They're expensive. They're expensive. And I just don't like the little raised dots on them. I just always thought they looked weird.
That's what those are. Oh, okay. I get it.
I was always a ropers girl, just your standard ropers. I know. But again, I'm a city girl. It's not like I was out in the pastures, like baling hay and stuff like that. It's not like everyone just has a pair of boots. You get a pair of boots in your life. But okay, so you ready for the hardest question? It's time.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go.
Finally. Okay, so I'm going to say that this is all subjective. We're not being the all-in claimers of what was better. I'm not trying to drag either one because I liked them both separately. But in your opinion, which was better?
Okay. All I have to say is I am not made for this. Because whatever I watch or read first has my heart. Okay. That's just what it is. Like, let me just tell you that I read the first Crazy Rich Asian books really fast and I loved it. And I watched the movie and I was so mad and I hated every second of it because it was so different. And I was like, that's different. Hey, why are they doing that? That's a weird choice. Even though it was beautiful and I was so happy with the representation. But I was still so mad because the book was so good. Okay. Yes. So I'll just get that out there that this is a hard thing for me. So what I did is, I watched the movie a long time ago and then I read this before watching it because I wanted to give the book a fair shot. And the whole time I was like, there is no way that the book is going to beat the movie just because I love watching these reality baking shows.
Okay.
But last night when I watched the movie, I was ticked the entire time. Which doesn't make any sense because I loved the movie the first time I watched it. But because I really appreciated how much backstory the book gave and it made their relationship make so much more sense to me. Right. And I felt more invested in it. And see, this was really hard because I'm going to give an answer that I thought I wouldn't give. And I do believe that the book was better.
You did it.
I did it. I said it. And
I'm so proud of you in this moment.
Thank you. But I'm still really shocked because I really thought the movie was going to win out because I loved it so much the first time I watched it. I was just so confused.
You and I are very almost identical in terms of confrontation, and we don't want to say anything bad about anybody because we're like, well, even if we hate it, we're like, well.
They put so much work into it, like I totally...
So yes, I'm like, yeah, you're right. From earlier, this is what our DMs are about. We're just like, but okay. So I'm going to go ahead and say, drum roll, please. Not really. I actually agree with you. And I'm going to go ahead and give this little sidebar that I believe that 75% of the book was better.
Oh,
because I wish it had the movie ending. Very sad.
Oh,
But
really?
overall, if I had to pick one or the other, I would pick the book.
Okay. See, go ahead. Sorry, say
No,
about Brendan Penny.
And Brendan Penny. I'd pick the book and Brendan Penny. Okay.
See, the thing that made me mad about the movie at the end is that he made her miss her party.
Why did she leave?
Because like this is her favorite show. She's watching herself win her, like just compete on her favorite show. And he's like, we need to talk in this room away from everybody where there's no TV. And I'm like, she's on TV and so are you. Why aren't you watching it?
You couldn't send this girl a text after the show?
Right.
Or show up and do the proposal there in front of people you actually know instead of slinging
bring
her
a cake
in the middle of her stocking shelves. Here.
So I was mad about that ending in the movie. Are you talking about the ending of the competition?
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just like the way that the movie competition flowed. So yeah. But
yeah,
for
I
the
understand.
most, like if somebody was like, you can only have one for the rest of your life, I would definitely choose Brendan Penny, but no, the movie. I mean the book, sorry.
Oh, wait, are you changing it up already?
No, the book. I would pick the book.
Okay.
We did it.
Woo.
We did it.
Woo.
I can't believe it.
Neither can I.
I mean, we hashed it out. We had some good points. We all agree that the pig was the biggest misstep in the entire, like, not having it, changing the name, everything. It really should just been about the pig. The whole thing.
But hold on,
and bacon.
Hold on, a movie or a book called The Secret Ingredient with a pig as the main character is a mess. I'm sorry.
But the bacon and a pet pig. That's all we really needed.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you very, very much for joining me on this episode. I had a blast. And if you are so inclined, where can people find you online?
Well, you can find me at the Hallremark on Twitter and Instagram. And you can get my recaps and reviews of Hallmark movies at thehallremark.com.
Y'all, and if you are not reading this blog, I'm going to first say, what is wrong with you? And two, you are missing out because legit, they make me actually like laugh out loud.
Oh, thank you.
Like I'll be reading it and my husband's like, what are you? Oh, you're reading the blog. I'm like, yep, I'm reading this. It's making me laugh because they are hilarious. And so y'all have to check it out. And there's a huge catalog to go back and look through. You don't have to wait for Christmas movies. You can look at them all. So Emma, thank you very, very much for coming on today. I appreciate it and your time.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a lot of fun. And I love the idea of this podcast. I'm so happy for you.
Oh, you're the best. And you guys, you can find me online on Twitter and Instagram at Lisa Faye Co. That's Lisa Faye Co. And you can follow the pod at Which Was Better on both Instagram and Twitter. And if you want to check us out online, it's whichwasbetter.com. So thank you guys, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.